Now we're with Carrie Bishop, and she is the director of FutureGov and also the facilitator for Proposition 4 this year. Carrie, thank you very much for joining us on Solace TV.
Thank you.
Carrie, describe for us your proposition and tell us about the key issues involved in it.
Sure. So Public Services in a Networked World is the title of the proposition, and it's about the fact that the world is changing rapidly. The speed of change is unprecedented, and someone said actually in one of the sessions we live in exponential times. I thought it was a really kind of neat way of putting it. So given that, how do we redesign public services for that world? How do we reshape what we do? How do we save money in the way that we need to save money, and how do we deal with the challenges that are ahead? And so the session is around 4 different areas within that. So there are 4 different workshops.
So we've already experienced some of the sessions. How did they go and what did you get out of them?
The first session was really inspirational. Actually, it was fantastic because we had Martin Reeves, who's the Chief Exec of Coventry here, and he was just on fire talking about, you know, a real call to arms in some ways for change. He gave us loads of really stimulating conceptual stuff about change and the rate of change and how organisations need to adapt. And then we had some really kind of stimulating conversation after that about people's responses to that, which on the whole were, you know, receptive. And there was a bit of kind of like, yeah, you know, I've been feeling like some things needed to change, but I haven't quite been able to put my finger on it. But this really encapsulates the mood, I think.
And how engaged have participants been? What ideas have they been bringing to the table?
Lots of debate in all of the sessions, actually. People really keen to say what they think about stuff and talk about their own experiences, talk about some of the struggles that they've had day to day, and also talk about some practical things. And the second session that we did was actually really good for that. Nina Dawes, the Chief Exec of Lichfield District Council, talked about in a really practical way, almost as a case study, some of the work that they've been doing there, which is really about redesigning services around service users.
So what ideas can chief execs now take home with them to their local authorities?
I think they'll take back with them a really solid example of another council that's doing things, and I think that's really important to win arguments organisationally. They'll take back with them a deeper understanding of some of the issues around that then. So if they then try to implement something in their own organisation, what are the likely things that they're going to come up against, and also what are some of the ways around that, because we had some good conversations about how you overcome some of the kind of data security issues that inevitably come up when we talk about joint working.
So obviously networked services is a rapidly evolving subject area. What, in your opinion, does local government look like in 5 years' time in terms of networked services?
That's a huge question. What do I think network services will look like in 5 years' time? I think Max Wide, who actually ran the 3rd session, which we've just finished, really started to go into some of that detail, which was cool, to think about government as a platform. So local government in the future won't look like a central organised silo, but may look much more like a platform, a bit like the iPhone is a platform in the sense that Apple actually don't make very many apps for their phone. Other people do that, but Apple supports them to sit on their infrastructure. And so local government will become about infrastructure and a platform for really great things to happen through other providers, be that community sector or private organisations, or a blending of the two.
And with 1 session to go, what are you really hoping to achieve and get out of that?
I'm really hoping that the next session will be a quite meaty conversation about how do you make change happen in organisations. So we've talked about all this great future stuff, it's all very exciting. We've talked about technology and the change in the world, and then lots of people are going to go back to their organisations and kind of look around them and think, we've got a mountain to climb here. So I hope the next session will be, what are the steps that we need to take to get up to the top of that mountain? How do we make that happen?
Well, Carrie, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for joining us on Solace TV.
Cheers.